This Saturday, experience extraordinary music under the stars. Join Madison Opera for Opera in the Park, a free concert in Garner Park featuring the best of opera and Broadway. Opera in the Park 2026 takes place at 8 p.m. on Saturday, July 18th. The rain date is Sunday, July 19th. Pack a picnic, gather your friends, and join Madison Opera to celebrate 25 years of this magical night. Learn more at madisonopera.org. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, the August primary is just 4 weeks away. On the Democratic ticket for governor, the field has narrowed to 5 candidates. The winner of that primary will go head-to-head against the top Republican candidate in the race. Joining me now is one of those Democratic gubernatorial candidates, State Representative Francesca Hong. Fran, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thanks so much, Bianca. I'm happy to be back.
Right off the bat, I've got to give a disclaimer. Fran is my friend from our service industry days. That said, I treat all political candidate interviews with the same integrity, dignity, respect, and kindness, and this interview will be no different. No special treatment outside of the regularly scheduled Bianca treatment.
Understood.
Let's start with the basics. Briefly, why do you think you're the best candidate to be Wisconsin's next governor?
We are in a movement moment. And the movement demands someone who can build coalitions that will put the majority, which is working class people of Wisconsin, first, and will fight for the universal policies that meet the scale and scope in the growing struggles of working class folks: wages, corporate corruption, unfair taxes, and working class people getting screwed by a rigged economy. And it's been our message, our vision is resonating with folks across the state, and it's exciting to see people be excited about politics again.
You're currently the representative for Assembly District 76, a seat you've held since 2021. And outside of the political arena, you've spent the most time in the food industry as a business owner. Can you talk about how that experience has influenced your campaign and platforms in this race?
Being in the service industry, I'm putting hospitality first. Service first. And I think that's important, especially when too many of our politicians see themselves as a politician only and not a public servant. The work ethic, the hustle, being able to maintain a steady hand during chaos and oftentimes crisis, thinking on your feet and working in collaboration with respect for your team. These are all values, experiences, principles that I have grown into and taken with me into legislating as well.
Well, yeah, let's talk about legislating. What in your government experience qualifies you for top executive of the state?
Not only have I worked across the aisle to pass bipartisan legislation, and mind you, this was legislation led by a Republican on race and diversity. It was to include Asian American history in our K-12 public schools. In politics, it's information and relationships that are your currency. And so I understand deeply how to build relationships from my time not only in the service industry and co-founding nonprofits, but ensuring that you have to find common good in people before you can find common ground, and to negotiate from a place of strength, to hold your values and set high expectations for the vision that you have to help Wisconsinites and improve material conditions of their lives. And I think understanding how to promote a good working culture while making sure that you are surrounding yourself with leaders who will hold you accountable to challenge you. Leadership in this moment looks like somebody who understands crisis response, collaboration, and working to make sure that you are someone willing to make the politically difficult decisions as opposed to the politically expedient ones. That's putting Wisconsinites first.
Yeah, on that piece of bipartisan legislation, it makes me think about the fact that, and this is worthy of note, when you were elected to the legislature, you became the first Asian American person to hold such a role in Wisconsin. And I'm curious, like, how has your experience and your lived experience shaped your approach to this campaign? And has it shaped how you're being received by voters across the state?
I am a very proud daughter of immigrants, and the values that my parents have instilled in me are of sacrifice and care for community. It's important in our campaign and in our campaigning that we build community when we're talking to voters, when we're empowering our volunteers, that putting care and joy and playfulness back into politics is a form of building resistance as well. So my lived experiences of born and raised in Wisconsin, having deep connections to immigrant communities, while also the work ethic and the values and skills that you grow in the restaurant industry and owning a small business. I think right now it's making us a more relatable campaign, and we try to use that to help build community wherever we go.
Fran, what do you think are the biggest issues facing Wisconsinites today, and how would you address them as governor?
Rising costs. And we need to address this problem with policies that with policies that will create permanent affordability. Our public schools. We don't have a strong economy without, and a strong democracy without strong public schools. So fully funding public education, lowering property taxes, doing right by our kids, ensuring that we have free childcare and paid leave for all, so workers are able to take care of themselves, their families, and not have to choose between work and between paycheck and taking care of a loved ones. Lowering utility costs and taking on AI data centers with a moratorium on AI data centers. And we're fighting for fair, cheaper healthcare for everyone by both lowering healthcare costs by taking on healthcare prices, and especially when it comes to affordable housing, more people are recognizing we have to take on private equity and hold mega corporations accountable.
And on that note, let's dig into the data centers, because like a really distinct moment for me watching this race was a Democratic primary candidate forum where you distinguish yourself from your opponents on the issues of data centers, being the only one calling for that statewide moratorium on data center construction. Wisconsin has landed major data center investments and jobs in recent years. Why are you making this stance? And how are you squaring that or balancing it with the economic development arguments other legislatures, including some Democrats, are making?
The moratorium on hyperscale AI data centers is the most responsible action the state can take to ensure that we have enforceable mechanisms to protect our natural resources, to protect ratepayers from rising utility costs, and ensure that taxpayers are not going to be on the hook for remediation and water testing, for any initial investments that may be promises. We cannot govern on the basis of corporate promises on the backs of taxpayers. We were Foxconn once, and with the scale and speed in which these data centers are being built, it is the moratorium that will allow us to put the laws in place to protect communities, keep it a local control, transparent process where we make these corporations pay upfront, where we ensure that communities have legal resources in their negotiations should they go into it, and that we're collecting and assessing the data that we need to assess what is happening when these data centers are built. Right now, existing data centers have tax exemptions of almost $2 billion. That money can be used to actually invest back into renewable, clean energy infrastructure, back into building public transit. And it's imperative that we do not sell out the state of Wisconsin to big tech and oligarchs. So the moratorium is the responsible route to make sure that we're protecting our resources and our communities.
A through line of what you've been sharing is affordability and looking out for consumers and making sure people can afford to live in this state, right? I want to talk about a minimum wage in those discussions there, because in terms of your plan, you put forward a $20 minimum wage, and that's a significant jump from Wisconsin's current baseline. What's your timeline for phasing that in? And what do you say to small business owners, especially given your own background, who might be a little worried about that cost?
So 99% of the businesses in our state are considered small business, and we want to make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed as a business and do right by our workers. The $20 minimum wage, I would support a 5-year phase-in program while also allowing our local governments, where right now they cannot raise the minimum wage to a living wage because the state does preempts them from doing that. So it would be a 5-year phase-in program, ensure that a lot of our bad actor businesses are not, paying poverty wages to workers, while ensuring that small businesses are able to have a plan to meet and go up to that $20 minimum.
So let's talk about your competition down the line. If you win the primary, your expected opponent on the Republican side of the ticket is likely frontrunner U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany. It's still a competitive primary, but Tiffany has received a strong endorsement from President Donald Trump, and the Republican Party is behind him. Do you have a plan for how you'd beat Tiffany? And tell us the details on it.
Tom Tiffany is an election-denying traitor, a pedophile protector, and someone who has supported and voted to gut health care from millions of Americans and take food away from our kids. He also supports a nationwide abortion ban. Defeating Tom Tiffany, I think it's not a matter of doing that or not. It's a matter of how much, because Wisconsinites are smarter than voting for someone who cares about Trump more than the people of Wisconsin. We have been meeting communities in every corner of the state, talking about the issues, and folks are recognizing more and more that in this rigged system, it is less about left and right and more about top down. That when we have a rigged economy that's allowing corporate loopholes and corporate corruption to be rampant, while some of our lowest income earners, working class people, are having to work 2-3 jobs, working harder than some of the ultra rich and still having to barely scrape by. We are going to continue to meet voters where they are and talk about how this is an opportunity to transform the way that government works, from helping the corporations, and instead be a government that works for working class, everyday Wisconsinites.
Man, that description of Tom Tiffany was pretty frank, and I was potentially clutching my metaphorical pearls when I heard it, but that's the sort of frank, to the point language that you've been using on the trail. And I am curious how that will play across Wisconsin.
I think the people of Wisconsin, they know bullshit. And the politicians who have been using similar plays, the status quo right now is unacceptable, and people deserve better. And so I care deeply about the people of this state, and I care deeply about our shared future and our kids. And I take it seriously, and I think being serious means that you have to be yourself and show up as yourself and be willing, because that shows transparency and accountability. I think people deserve that. And I think our campaign is showing that folks are relating to it more, because I'll say what motivates me, what helps me when things on the trail can get really rough, is remembering that I'll be in communities that I never thought I would be in. And someone tells me that they're talking to their family about me and letting them know that I'm one of them. And I think that people across Wisconsin deserve to have someone who's going to fight for them and fight alongside them.
Well, speaking about the power of words, you are an avowed democratic socialist. And Wisconsin is no stranger to socialist politicians. We know that. And there's also no question that you're the farthest left candidate in this race. That will certainly scare some Democrats away. But I think it's important to talk about, that people are calling your candidacy a quote unquote test for how far left voters are willing to go in the November midterm elections. And what is this, phrase democratic socialism? What does that mean? Is the term democratic socialist label a help, a hindrance? How are you thinking about that? I know it's who you are. You're talking about standing on who you are, and that's what's giving you energy.
Democratic socialism is about democracy, fairness, and human rights. folks ask me about democratic socialism, I talk about our publicly owned, beloved Packers, our public education that we need to be pro-public for all kids, and about potholes. Our money is going into services that everyone uses. And my principles on fairness is why I know we have to tax the rich and ensure that the many that they pay their fair share. That democracy means everyone has not only the right to vote, but a right to have a government that protects their freedoms and human rights. It's why it was important for me to talk about, what is happening in Gaza as a genocide, that our tax dollars should not be going to fund forever wars. The people in Wisconsin are more concerned and interested and deserve to know the plans for solutions and not be distracted by labels. I'm not interested in expanding a brand or a level or label. This is about delivering services and delivering solutions to help people improve their lives and to make lives easier here in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin has such a strong progressive tradition, and you're standing squarely in that. I think that's safe to say. How do you envision the future of Wisconsin's progressive candidates? Should we expect to see more democratic socialists down the line? What are you gathering while you're on the trail and hearing from people?
The majority party in Wisconsin is the party of working class people. And I think more than just how folks, I think because the policies that our campaign is standing on are popular, we will see more people supporting and campaigning on those policies. And should they be deemed left, progressive, liberal, I think what's most important is that we are talking about solving problems and fixing this economy that puts corporations and profits, the ultra rich, ahead of everyday working class folks. So I hope more candidates and campaigns will focus on using new plays and strategies, because what we've been doing in the past has led us here.
You've appeared on a live stream with political streamer Hassan Piker, which drew a lot of excitement on the left and some condemnation on the right. You're showing up in the New York Times. You're on the cover of Time magazine. Like, how does bringing a national spotlight to the race change the game for you?
There's pressure, but there's also power in making sure that our message is getting across to as many people as possible. And they say, as goes Wisconsin, as goes the country. We are a bellwether state. So for more people to be paying attention to how, if we are able to put forth the solutions and deliver for Wisconsin on wages, in tackling data centers, in healthcare and housing and public education, we hope that more people will see that this can and should be the direction that we take our state governments for other states. It's been encouraging to see people support, but it's also good to know what the feedback is. But overall, I think that broadening our platform, getting our message to more people helps show and validate for our volunteers and our supporters that this is something that we're a part of something bigger. And I think it always helps to know, or I feel better about being in a movement because I know that I'm a part of something bigger than myself.
I love that phrase, like, as goes Wisconsin. It's so true. And another phrase I'm just going to give to Wisconsin is work hard, play hard. Here on CityCast Madison, we like to have fun. And I want to talk a little bit about your Wisconsin cred. Tell us about the most Wisconsin thing about you, or the most Wisconsin thing that you love.
I'm obsessed with cranberries. The cranberry marshes, the waders, everything from harvest, the incredible research that's being done on cranberry harvest. The first Ocean Spray commercial I saw as a kid growing up in Wisconsin, I knew at some point I had to get into those waders and go into a cranberry marsh. My dream came true a couple falls ago. And I can't wait to go back to Cranberry Festival in Warrens and to Necedah, to Cranberry Creek, and go back for the cranberry harvest.
That's so exciting. Like, truly an experience that I want to have as well. And it's so Wisconsin. We've got to have our cranberry love. Fran, before I let you go, any last points you'd like to share with our listeners?
Our campaign slogan is "We Make Better Possible." It's active, it's about democracy, and it's what I remind folks of in knowing that when we stop imagining better, dreaming, building community, that's when fascism and authoritarianism wins. And so I remind myself and I let others know that together we make better possible. That's really what this campaign is about, improving the lives of Wisconsinites and knowing that we can have a more caring future. That all of that is possible.
State Representative Francesca Hong, gubernatorial candidate, thank you so much for coming on CityCast Madison.
Thanks so much, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Madison. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with somebody who loves cranberries and wants to get into a cranberry marsh? All right, y'all, but do help spread the word about CityCast Madison. Share this episode out. It really helps us get our show to the people who need to hear it. And we will be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.